Long flowering plants mean that you can extend your summer colour right into autumn, or fall as you might call it, or even to the first frosts. It's Alexandra here from the Middle-Sized Garden YouTube channel and blog with tips, ideas and inspiration for your garden. I visited Whole Park Gardens recently, and that's because head gardener Quentin was asked to revamp the herbaceous borders of their Centenary Garden to provide a bowl of colour throughout spring, summer and autumn, and I wanted to know what plants he could recommend for long flowering in a border. Whole Park Gardens in Kent are open to the public between April and October, and they're a mix of formal gardens like the Sunk Garden and the Centenary Garden, along with wilder areas and also sweeping park vistas. I went on 2 occasions. One was very rainy and one was very sunny, and we have had very changeable weather in the UK over the past year. But the plants in this video will grow across a wide range of climates and zones, so I'll put their winter hardiness up on screen. So, Quentin, tell me, how did you start with the borders here at Whole Park?
Well, the borders in the Centenary Garden, the remit I was given was a bowl of colour. So from that we had an unlimited choice of plants. So we started by making a list for each month, and then we could then go through the books and the catalogues, picking out plants, trying to work out what would be nice together, either nice foliage, different foliage against each other, colours, different heights. So we had a long season of colour throughout the year, is what our plan was. And then there was the things that were going, oh, I just really want to have one of those plants in here. I wanted to find a space for it to work.
And did you find that it worked, or have you had to do quite a lot of tweaking?
Overall, we're really pleased how it's come on. What we have found is there are a few gaps, that things didn't grow quite enough. So we had to find new things to just fill in the gap that was a bit taller or spread a little bit further. There was some tweaking, mainly in the 2 big borders at the bottom. That some things were too big at the front or not big enough, and they just needed a little bit of shuffling round.
And what time of year do you do that shuffling round?
We tend to do it in autumn when we're planting the tulips. Well, we think we've made notes all summer long, going, that's not big enough, that's too rampant. So end of the sort of November sort of time, we have a chance to actually get in with our notes and the plans, and see what we had before, and move it around a little bit.
When you're planning the heights and the size of the plants, is there any kind of rule that you use?
No. I look at what it says in the catalogues and trust those generally. And as they put, taller things that are solid near the back. And if it's a thinner plant, like a red hot poker, say, we can bring that further forward, even though it will get 4 or 5 foot tall. But you've got then something to look through onto the next thing behind it.
And what have you found that are really good plants for the foreground of a border?
Oh, things like the Penstemons are really quite good. They're 2 foot tall, and they sort of flower for ages. Sedums are really good. Some of the Nepeta Kit Kat is a really good one that flowers for ages. So they're not too tall, but they do cover nice ground, and they flower for a long season.
So in terms of the flowers that have been flowering for a long season, what would be your top recommendations?
Well, I mean, the Tulbaghia has been amazing this year. It just comes in waves all summer long. I say Nepeta Kit Kat has flowered for ages as well. Some of the other salvias, the Gaura, they've all been really good. So they've all good long season. There's Diasia personata.
Oh, Diasia, yes,
which is
that's right.
A really good Diasia. Flowers from May to November. What we found is not to cut it back in the winter.
Okay.
It seems to die if you cut it back in the winter. If you cut it back in the spring, it seems to be much happier.
And this here, is this a Calamera?
It is.
Yes, because that's a flower that you don't see a lot of, is it? But that's very long flowering as well.
It is. That's done really well. That was a plant from Pelham Plants.
I thought so, because I saw it in his garden last week.
It is. It's one that he recommended for us.
So, in terms of the long flowering ones in this bit, what are the best ones to recommend?
Well, I would say that the sedum is a long season over the autumn, and that's sedum red collie. You put it at the Achillea, I think that's one called Salmon.
Yeah.
I mean, we use that for the tea room for cut flowers. There's always a constant flow of new flowers coming. Our longest flowering here is the Dicliptera suberecta.
Dicliptera suberecta.
Yeah.
Okay.
used to be called Jacobina. It's a member of the Acanthus family.
Okay.
Really popular with wasps. They like feeding on it. Softly hairy leaves, likes it a dry winter, doesn't like it too wet at all, but it does flower for absolutely ages. We get a lot of comments on this one in the garden, but it's in front of Salvia Amino. I mean, that will have a long flowering season, but it's only just started here. So we're mid-August, I suppose it started, but it will carry on until we get frost.
What would you recommend in this grouping for long flowering late season?
Agastache Blackadder, I think it is.
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah, licorice scented or aniseedy scented leaves, flowers for ages and ages. It's just a really nice plant.
What would you recommend for a good late season colour here?
I mean, I suppose that our best thing at the moment is an annual, which is Cleome spinosa, the pink spider flower. So I would say we start with the rose up the frame. That's a rambling rose called Rambling Rosie. Small red flowers, flowers all summer long. That has been amazing. We have got a clematis that's flowered earlier in there as well, give a bit of interest. In front of that, we have Rudbeckia Eilers. It's got these nice sort of pinched petals. That's just started. But that's Tagetes Burning Embers. That's one of our annuals. We did flowers with long season, good with pollinators, and it's a really bold, bright colour. But Persicaria, so one of the sort of more sub-shrubby with the nice dark chevrons on it. So in time they'll get bigger and fill up that space at the back. Salvia Nachtlinder. All the Microphylla, Greggii, shrubby salvias are really good value. Just keep on flowering, and it goes really well with things like the Nepetas and things.
And what about this clump here?
Well, the longest flowering thing is the Penstemon. It just flowers for ages. Can't fault. I wouldn't cut them back in the winter. I would leave it until spring when you get new growth coming up. But they flower, deadhead and Meghalene, they flower summer, right into autumn, into early winter. They've been amazing. Another plant we got from Pelham Plants again is this Kniphofia Thompsonii. Great candles of this vivid orange. It does sucker gently and spread, but also it just flowers on and off all summer long. So one stem dies off, another flower stem comes up, just keeps on coming. And also being quite thin, we can bring that further forward. So it's right on the edge of the border, this one, which is quite nice. And it's quite a nice contrast. It picks up on autumnal tints of this Helenium September Fox, which is a great late flowering helenium.
When you're actually planting the plants, what do you have to bear in mind?
Well, make sure the root ball's covered really. That's, tease the roots open, decent sized hole, spread the roots out, make sure it's firmed in there nicely, and get on with it basically.
So do you add lots of extra garden compost, or do you basically put the soil back as it is?
We mulched it. We put 60 tonnes of mulch in here originally, and planted through it, and that's pretty much all we did. Mixed a bit of it in with the soil, but because it was all bought in soil for in here, it was actually quite good.
Do you buy in the soil because it was very poor, or?
Yeah, and also because we raised the soil level up by a foot or so in here. We brought in 120 tonnes in.
And is that so that you can see the borders better?
Yeah, I mean part of the idea we had, because I wanted that bowl of colour, we put this upstand round the pathway, which raised the plants up by a foot, so then everything's a little bit closer to you, and then it gives you that extra height all the way through the border. So, you could actually have something that's quite short, a bit further back, because it's that little bit higher. I don't have to rely on plants being 10 foot tall. I can have something that's 7 foot, because it's, got that extra lift on the upstand.
Back to the mulch again. Do you mulch again once a year?
We were going to go to sort of every other year because we've got quite a lot of other borders, but we're going to start mulching every year without fail.
And once again, is that autumn or spring?
We'll do that over the winter. So we'll start it in December, and if it goes on to January, March, on how the other jobs going around the gardens.
Yeah. And how much of a layer is it that you put on?
Oh, as thick as we can get it. 4-6 inches at least. Make it worthwhile, make it last for the summer. Hopefully keep the weeds down, so that'll save us a job during the summer. And hopefully because I'll keep moisture in, hopefully it'll keep things flowering for longer.
And do you do any other fertilising? Do you put fertiliser in the
No.
planting hole?
No,
No.
they just have to get on with what they've got and the mulch that they get given on top, and that should be enough.
I must say that's always what I do now, because I find it's such a fiddle going and getting the fertiliser and going and getting this and getting that. Now I just dig a hole, put the plant in, whack it in,
Yeah.
mulch on top, job done. Otherwise I leave
Yeah.
them in their pots for weeks while I'm planning it.
My thing is, I think I prefer to grow things on the hard side.
Yeah.
So they may not get as quite as tall, but if it's windy and wet, they're not going to fall over, because they don't stake either generally.
Oh, so that's a very simple way of running the border, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you relying on the plants to slightly keep each other up if you put the right ones together?
Yeah, I mean that's also part of the planning as well. Is, you know, if something's tall, is it going to flop over its neighbour or will it stand up? You know, we do Chelsea chop some things to keep them that bit shorter and keep them tighter. And we've listed some of the sedums, we're going to do that too, because they were rubbish this year. We've got very tall and leggy, so hopefully we'll chop those down and that'll give space for something else, and then that'll hold up the plant next to it. You know, so hopefully, you know, we try and use the plants to do the work for us.
So what do you do about pests and diseases here?
I try not to worry about it too much. We try not to use too many weed killing on pathways, but other than that, I tend not to use any chemicals, only for the box moth caterpillar, which is a bit of a pain everywhere.
Yeah.
But generally, I don't worry about P&D.
And so, for instance, if you get aphids, you just wait for the birds to eat them.
Yeah,
And
or you use your finger and thumb and squash them on a stem. Lily beetles, just trying to catch them when they're in egg form, squash them. Other than that, I don't worry too much about it. You know, hopefully the birds come in and the ladybirds do their job.
you've got some magnificent dahlias here, and one of the things everyone's been complaining about this year is that the wet weather means the slugs and the snails have absolutely had the dahlias. So how have
Yeah.
you managed that?
We've suffered, same with everyone else. I mean, I've got one just behind us here, it's doing really well. Another one called Garden Wonder that's been really good, but everything else has suffered. They're still not catching up, but we just had to leave them, let them get on with it. Hope we have some dry weather,
Yeah.
and hopefully that they've got enough energy to grow through it.
Yes, and that has been difficult, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's been a nightmare.
Yeah. I think it's been one of the hardest gardening years this year. How have you found that cold, wet spring?
Oh, it was, like you say, it's been a real challenge this year. Long, cold winter, not overly cold, but long, damp and wet. So nothing got growing early. The slugs have been, well, in abundance this year. They've become dry now, so we've got cracks in the borders. So generally, it's just been a challenge. The mulch has been the key. We sowed all, the annuals, but we just sowed them later, planted it out later, and they just had to get on with it. Really, I can't worry about it too much. You've got other things to do, other jobs to do. So you just have to go. You almost have to abandon it in one way and just let the plants get growing, and they'll catch up at some point.
If somebody was planning on either revamping their border completely or even just tweaking it a bit, what do you think is the most important thing they have to bear in mind?
I'll take notes in the summer, just how big things have got, or what doesn't work, or is it too tall in the summer. If plants have grown too tall, do it into Chelsea chop it. Just keep really good notes of how plants have done over several years, because one year it'll be a hot, dry summer and they've not grown at all. The next year we've had a long, wet summer and they've got 2 foot taller than normal. So it's that sort of thing. You know, just keep notes of how plants have done. And if it's got too tall, you know, move it in autumn. You know, split and divide things. You know, some things have done particularly well. Split and divide them. If you haven't got enough, take cuttings of things to bulk them up, make them more of a show. In
terms of the balance between shrubs, perennials and annuals, do you have a particular balance that you go for?
In here, it's 95% herbaceous.
Perennials, basically.
Yeah. We have a few annuals, odd gaps. So we've got some Tagetes and we've got some Arguanthemums and things that have just filled in a few little spaces.
And bulbs, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a few shrubs. There's a couple of roses and there's established magnolias, but that's pretty much it.
Autumn, or fall, is the best time to plant plants in your borders. So don't miss this next video coming up with 10 plants to plant now from the experts at the Plant Fairs Roadshow. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.